Welcome back to Saturday School, where we teach you things from higher education so that you can put things into practice to better improve your fitness. Today we're going to be talking about peace and love. Let's get into it. The problem we face a lot of times is that we go about an injury all wrong, right? If you've read any research lately, you know that the rest, ice, compression, elevation, particularly the ice component, is not that efficacious, meaning it's not that great. We don't need to ice, but some of these other things are beneficial. So we have this new acronym, peace and love, as a solution to your problem when you get injured. So P is protect. All right, we're going to protect that area of pain, inflammation, whatever it might be. It could be as significant as bracing or splinting a broken bone. We need to protect that area. It could be as gentle, let's say, as you hurt your back and you just need to protect it a bit. Okay, so let's avoid reaching down real quickly and picking up objects. Let's avoid sitting in one position for a long time of the day. We need to protect that area so that it can heal. Okay? We think about that with protect as relative rest. We don't want you just going home, laying down for the rest of the day, but we want you to protect that area. No sudden movements, just pay attention to how your body feels. We're going to protect that area. The next is elevate. Really only works for the limbs. If you injure your back, it's very hard to elevate your back, right? So when we think about elevate, we think about you sprained your ankle. You did something to your wrist. You did something to your elbow. We want to get it above your heart. So if it's your leg, you need to lie down. You need to get that leg elevated so we can just reduce some swelling. If it is highly swollen, right, that's when we need to really elevate the limb so that we can reduce all that inflammation. Inflammation in and of itself is a good thing. It is a healing response, and so we need some of that. But if that swelling is so significant that all of the adverse metabolites, let's call them, limit the ability for all the good things in your blood to get to that healing area, not that great. So we need to elevate so we limit that amount of swelling. That pairs into the next thing of avoid anti-inflammatories, or essentially avoiding NSAIDs. So anything in that NSAID category, right? You can look on the bottle and it will say NSAID. You need to avoid those. Why? Because it's very similar to this elevate thing. We often think, hey, we need to take anti-inflammatories so we don't get inflammation, so we don't limit that healing response. But really what we're doing when we take NSAIDs is we're completely shutting off that healing response. We need that inflammation process, right? There are some on the fringes. Too much inflammation is a bad thing, but inflammation as a continuum is good. That's how our bodies heal. So if we take NSAIDs, we're putting a stop sign to all that blood flow, and we're not letting it do its due diligence, right? We're not healing our body as we should. So we need to avoid anti-inflammatories. That's not to say you can't take things like Tylenol or acetaminophen, right? That is a pain reliever. If you're in some pain and you need to take some type of over-the-counter medication, sure, that's fine. But for an acute injury, let's avoid NSAIDs. A rule of thumb I always like to tell my athletes is that if you've done some type of work, if you've done some type of intervention to help your body, I want you to avoid NSAIDs in the 6-hour window that follows. Okay? That's just a general rule of thumb that I like so that your body can have a healing response. If you're continuing to have a bad experience after that 6 hours and it's ruining your recovery, it's ruining your ability to sleep, to rest, things like that, I'm okay with my athletes taking some NSAIDs after that 6-hour window. And really all that is so that you can get some rest, you can get some comfort. But again, if you can avoid that, please do. Take some type of other pain reliever if you have it as directed by your pharmacist or your primary care physician. The next, compression. Our bodies love compression in that acute injury phase. A lot of times it relates to this protect mechanism. That compression feels good. It feels like we are being hugged, being loved, being comforted. That compression is good for our body, and it will help do some kind of vasoconstriction. It will help get some type of muscle relaxation, kind of all those things. So compression is good. Let's take the back pain scenario. If you put on a weightlifting belt and get some compression, that might ease some of that back pain as you go along. Again, listen to your body. Sometimes too much compression will hurt, but compression boots will also help with some of that metabolite and fluid pathway, so that you can get rid of some of those metabolites from your acute injury, feel a little bit better. Compression will be a good thing. And lastly, education. It's huge. It's huge. What we're doing now is education. I always tell people that come to me for a recovery session after they've had a hard workout, I'm doing all these things. I'm educating them. I'm telling them what's going on in their body. I'm getting some type of critical evaluation in there, and so we can educate in this process. If you don't have a provider near you, one, look around. There's probably one in your immediate area. But if you can't find that, doing some type of education with reading on what's best for your body, checking in is good. But hey, let this serve as education for those acute irritations. I typically like this PEACE acronym portion to be day of and day after injury, right? We're going to protect, we're going to elevate, we're going to avoid NSAIDs, we're going to use compression, and we're going to educate. Day 2 and onward, we need to work on love. Okay, I also tell my athletes that come in, we're going to progress to this love. I want to see you again tomorrow. We're going to go through this, right? This L, I almost wrote love, is load. Shocker, coming from a physical therapist, right? We need to load that body segment, okay? No ankle sprain is going to get better by staying in a boot for 1,000,000 years. You eventually need to get load through those tissues. That's how our bodies heal, right? We need to adapt to the stimulus that's placed on our bodies. So we need to go through some type of loading. If you have a physical therapist in your area, this is what you should be doing the day after injury. You should be loading in the appropriate fashion with somebody helping you, guide you through that process. You need to get some load through those tissues. The same thing with the back. You need to start bending over and loading those muscles in your back, loading the hips, doing something to get some load, to get some stimulus for that healing. The next, O, is optimism. I believe I spelled that right. Optimism. You need to know that, hey, this is just an acute flare-up. This is just a high sensitive reaction to maybe what was going on in the workout earlier. Optimism, that it will get better. Your body will adapt. Your body will heal itself. Your body will go through these phases of, ow, this hurts, oh, this is better. Ow, this hurts, oh, this is better. That's the human experience. We need to know that it will get better. I've had somebody come to me recently and they were just saying, hey, I'm not worried about this part. I know that it will get better. It's gotten better before in the past. It will get better again. I understand I just went a little bit too heavy, too soon. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with my mental health here. Let's just get some load. Let's get some exercise in. Great scenario. Okay, with that being said, vascularize. Okay, vascularize. We need to get those tissues more blood flow. Okay, so same thing with this protect, right? We're kind of waiting. Eventually we need to vascularize those tissues. So the immediate area around that injury, we need to move. We need to get working. We need to try and provide some stimulus for some load in that area so we get blood flow there, because that's the way we're going to heal. And then lastly is exercise. Sorry, it threw me off that I did a lowercase e there for whatever reason. E, exercise. You need that global response of elevating your heart rate, elevating your respiratory rate. We need to get that whole body pump so that everything gets a response, so that everything gets that endorphin release. Everything in your body gets the benefit of exercise that we know and love. So when it comes to acute injury, you need to think peace and love. You need to have somebody guide you through that process if you're uncertain. Here at Cali Performance, that's what we're here to do. Thank you for attending another class of Saturday School.